I am not a number. I am many numbers, printed on a slip of paper to prove that I can read, write, think how you like me to, and if I do not make the cut, I will tear myself apart, then rebuild in time for show, plaster a smile on my face for your sake, so you won't know that scars have formed after years of being swarmed by expectation, obligation, self-hatred. Because I am not a number. I am many numbers, printed on a slip of paper to prove that I can read, write, think how you like me to, not a moment of rest, because I am scared to be outrun by kids whose parents donate large sums to secure their place in elite education, while we work twice as hard for half the payout to pay the same tuition, because college acceptance is a religion. And our God makes one decision to determine if the last 4 years were even worth living. So let's measure our value by every accomplishment, trophy, every plaque. But let me warn you, it is hard to pat yourself on the back when you are always watching it. Protecting that dream they shove down your throat to stifle your cries, even though long ago the meritocracy died and the world never put up any warning signs. But when you are constantly looking to those by your side, you are bound to crash. But why move forward when it is so comfortable to be stuck in a cycle of comparative culture? Because I am not a number. I am many numbers, printed on a slip of paper to prove that I can read, write, think how you'd like me to. I will lose myself in a sea of statistics for you, because education is a business and I want to be employed, so my parents will not have toiled through dirt and blood to no avail, so my happy ending can prevail, so I can live in pride that I was accepted into some fancy college on the other side of the country. My name is student ID 1687113. Please validate me.
Good evening and welcome to the Campaign for College Opportunity's second annual Dean's List Legislative Reception. We are proud to adapt this event for the virtual context, and we couldn't have carried this event out without the generosity of our sponsors, our partners in the field, and our tremendous staff. To you all, a sincere thank you. We thought it appropriate to begin this event with student voice, since the student experience and student voice anchors everything we do at the Campaign for College Opportunity. I hope you'll join me in virtually applauding the remarkably gifted and talented Alexandra Nguyen, the Sacramento Youth Poet Laureate and a finalist for the National Youth Poet Laureate. Her rendition of Numbers Game is not only impactful, but appropriate at this moment in time. Alexandra, thank you for lending your voice to this program. I want to kick off this evening by sharing that these have been extremely difficult times for all of us in the education equity space. But we are so proud at the Campaign for College Opportunity to have been able to navigate these challenging waters in partnership with so many of you who are joining us this evening. We know that in many ways, the pandemic, coupled with the racial reckoning, has laid bare educational inequities that we have known have existed for far too long. And yet, in these times of crisis, it is leaders like the legislative leaders that we will hear from tonight that have risen to the occasion and epitomized strength and courage in these very challenging circumstances. And at the heart of everything they've done, maintained a laser commitment to racial equity and student success. This evening, we'll have the opportunity to have student leaders presenting to each of these remarkable policymakers who in their own way have been heroes in the field of racial equity in higher education. We'll be hearing from our new Secretary of State, Dr. Shirley Weber, who has been one of the leaders in racial equity for quite some time in the legislature, and now will have an opportunity on a larger stage to continue to do work that is so difficult and yet could not be trusted to a better caretaker. We'll also be hearing from Assembly leaders and Senate leaders who have been at the forefront of tackling pandemic response. We'll hear from former State Senator Holly Mitchell, who, as we know, has taken the reins at the LA Board of Supervisors, leading an all-female Board of Supervisors, and has been a longtime champion of tackling some of the most challenging and proactive budget-related interventions for higher education and student success. We'll also hear from Assemblymember Ting, who has on the Assembly side been a huge proponent of affordability issues, and hear from his staff and from our students about how he has continued to prioritize racial equity in each and every one of his decisions. We'll hear from some of our wonderful leaders like Assemblymember Medina, who as the chair of the Assembly Higher Education Committee has been a longtime shepherd of student success and been a tremendous partner in community college reform. And we'll have an opportunity to recognize an extraordinary staff member who has been really at the forefront of ensuring that student access is preserved in the CSU and beyond. But we'd like to begin this evening by opening it up to the Campaign for College Opportunity board member, Estela Bensimone, who in her right is both a state and national leader on issues of racial equity in higher education. She has been a longtime engaged board member who has helped encourage the work of the Campaign for College Opportunity to ensure that we are at the cutting edge of racial equity issues in student access, student success, and affordability. Estela Bensimone is also a preeminent scholar in issues of racial equity and higher education. And so without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Estela Bensimone.
I am very pleased to welcome you to our annual celebration, the Legislative Dean's List, in recognition of leaders who work mightily to do the right thing for the Californians of today. We are also joined by several students who someday in the future, I am sure, we will be honoring for their contributions to California. We are also privileged to have the opportunity to honor and congratulate Dr. Shirley Weber, who just a few hours ago became our esteemed Secretary of State. I met Dr. Weber about 2 years ago when she and I were appointed to be commissioners representing California in the Education Commission of the states. And I must say that as a professor myself, I am really proud that a sister professor will be exercising statewide leadership. She will show that professors are more than nerds with their heads up in the clouds. And so, Dr. Weber, I really congratulate you for all of your leadership. So proud to know you. Today, we celebrate 5 individuals whose values, qualities, and efforts exemplify selfless, progressive, justice-oriented, and caring leadership. This celebration signifies hope and new possibilities. This is especially important because we have witnessed the cruel murders of innocent Black and brown men and women at the hands of police and white supremacist vigilantes. We have witnessed the ravages of COVID in the Black, brown, Indigenous, and Asian American and Pacific Islander communities. We have witnessed a broken unemployment system that has delayed relief for thousands of unemployed Californians. And on January 6th, to top it all off, we witnessed a white supremacist insurrection overtaking the Capitol. We often respond to horrific events like these as aberrations, abnormalities, and over again, we hear the mantra of, this is not who we are. These difficult times urge us to actually be more honest with ourselves and to redouble our efforts to use the power of institutions and elected leadership to address the inequalities that prevent Black, Latinx, Indigenous, Asian American, Pacific Islander students from taking advantage of a public higher education system and pursuing their aspirations. For too long, we have reduced Blacks, Latinx, and Indigenous students in particular to data tables that depict all the ways in which they fail and are failures. And I am also guilty of that. Too often, our strategy has been guided by the desire to fix students. I say that today we could say that we need a different strategy. We need a strategy to build a public higher education system that works for California's new majority. We need a strategy to retrain higher education professionals to view Black, Latinx, and Indigenous students as individuals who have knowledge and who have aspirations. We need educators who are able to tap into the assets that these students bring with them, but too often are ignored. I hope that we at the campaign can count on all of you who have joined us today to help us build a strategy for a more just and inclusive California. Welcome, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Thank you again for joining us. I am Michelle Siqueiros, president of the Campaign for College Opportunity. I'm also a first-generation college student, the daughter of hardworking immigrants, and really privileged to lead this organization's work as we continue to ensure that every student has a chance to go to college, regardless of the color of their skin, the amount of money they have, or the zip code they live in. Our first honoree today was confirmed as our new Secretary of State for California, Dr. Shirley Weber. I am thrilled to present her with a beautiful print by Cynthia St. James entitled Bennett Bells that portrays beautiful college graduates and the women that support them. Dr. Shirley Weber, you epitomize grace, courage, and strength, an unwavering commitment to ensuring that every child has access to a quality education and that every student in California can succeed and reach his or her college dreams. You have been unwavering in your support for historic reforms that put students first. We have been lucky to have you as a champion and an ally in the legislature. More recently, we watched you lead us towards confronting racial inequality directly by pressing the legislature and the voters of California to eliminate the ban on affirmative action. While we fell short of winning that fight alongside you, we remain undeterred, knowing that the time is right to do the right thing, always. Of course, it's always right to fight for students first, and I'm proud to work alongside Aiden Airsingham, the president of the UC Student Association, who joins me in celebrating our new Secretary of State, Dr. Shirley Weber, and presenting her with this distinction in Elevating Racial Equity Award. Thanks, Aiden.
Thank you so much, Michelle, and good evening, everyone. My name is Aiden Airsingham. I'm a senior at UCLA majoring in global studies, and I'm proud to serve as the president of the UC Student Association, the official voice of the over 285,000 students who call the University of California their home. And as a Bruin, I'm honored to reflect on the work of a fellow Bruin, and not just a single Bruin, but a triple Bruin degree holder at that, a work of a leader I admire so much, Dr. Shirley Weber. For decades, Dr. Weber has been a steadfast advocate for fairness, justice, and equity in California, and students have always gravitated towards Dr. Weber's leadership. You know, students are often regarded as the conscience of the university, and Dr. Weber is often regarded as the conscience of the legislature. So it is no wonder that UC students so often find common cause with Dr. Weber, and why on issues relating to police accountability, racial justice, ethnic studies, and affirmative action, Dr. Weber has been the strongest ally students could have. It was a group of students at UC Berkeley who inspired Dr. Weber to catalyze the Opportunity for All movement with ACA 5 and Prop 16. With Dr. Weber, we found a courageous leader, an inspiring orator, and a skilled legislative partner in the intergenerational fight to bring affirmative action back to UC. It's a fight that us students are still disappointed we did not win last November. But if the bold example of Dr. Weber's public service has taught us as students anything, it's this: don't shy away from the fights that matter, don't let short-term setbacks block long-term progress, and never stop learning on the path of liberation through education. For someone born in Hope, Arkansas, a place Dr. Weber described as having no hope for communities of color decades ago, to become a lifelong champion for justice, and now the Secretary of State of California, there is nothing that brings students more hope than that. Dr. Weber, your legislative legacy has given generations of hope for a better future, and we cannot wait to see you continue to pave the way for fairness and justice in our democracy as Secretary of State. It is my honor to present the Campaign for College Opportunities Distinction in Elevating Racial Equity Award to Dr. Shirley Weber.
And so I want to thank you for this art, because it is amazing, and it's a reflection of the things that I think are important. Me today being confirmed by the Senate finally, and they'll vote tomorrow, and the Assembly voted today as the first African-American to serve as the Secretary of State in 170 years in this country is quite an honor. And as I pointed out to them, it's an honor, especially for a kid whose father was denied the opportunity to vote in Hope, Arkansas, and then to find his daughter responsible for ensuring the vote of 40 million people in this nation. It is a dream come true, but it's also a reflection of just the power of education, the power of the education ability to change my life and to change the lives of so many others in this country. Two of the things my father taught me was always to get an education, because that's one thing that nobody can take from you, that they cannot take your education. And he lived in a system where they could take a lot of things from you, your land, try to take your dignity, those kinds of things. But he said, once you get that information, they could never take it. And I was fortunate to be in California, to take advantage of the University of California. And I will forever be indebted to the University of California, because I was able to get 3 degrees and only owe $1,250. And that is the California dream. That's the California promise, to be able to help to take its children and give them the best education in the world. And at the same time, not break the bank, but invest in them so that they can then help to build California. And we have to get back to that. And that's what your Campaign for College Opportunity does. It ensures for kids everywhere that they have an opportunity to be successful. They have an opportunity to, if they work hard, that they should be able to attend the universities of California and to basically thrive, to build a family, to build a life that is different than the one that they had, and to be able to then share that and give it to others. So I'm just excited about being here this evening. I'm always excited about the campaign, because it's a wonderful campaign. I want to thank you for what you did for Prop 16. I think we learned a lot in Prop 16, but we also gave a lot. And I want young people to understand, because I know you live in the instant microwave generation, that freedom is not always as easy as popcorn. It's not as easy as putting it in the microwave and it comes out. If you put 3.5 minutes every time, it's perfect. That is not what freedom is all about. It is about hard work and struggle. And when you study your ancestors and how hard they worked for us to get to where we are now, then you realize that hard work is going to be the basis and the bedrock of the struggle that we have to fight for. And yet we know it is so important, because what we saw 2 weeks ago in the Capitol, that really was a reflection of the division and the hatred in this country. It should fuel all of us to basically work harder and harder to accomplish these goals. As I move to the Secretary of State, I have promised that social justice will always be in the center and the core of everything I do. That even though I'm moving across the street to a different position, I will have a greater platform, the state of California, to raise these issues of justice and equality for everyone, to ensure that everyone has a chance in the state and that we are protecting their right in every sense of the word. And so I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the fact that we'll have access to the archives in California, that we can really tell the true history and the development of the people of California. And that should then fuel all of us to do even greater work. So I just want to thank you for what you did with Prop 16. It was great. We had a great campaign. I was amazed at the young people who really understood affirmative action better than the adults, who knew how important it was to have a diverse California and to support that diversity in every step of the way. So when the students at Berkeley asked me to basically take up this charge, some says, oh, we may not make it, it may not be good, and we may not be successful. I said, hey, everything rides on the fact that we have to basically push forward. And if we only waited for something that was sure, that was going to be done right, and that was always going to be, quote, successful, we would not do anything at all. Most of the things I've accomplished because people said we couldn't do it, that we couldn't bring social justice reform, that we couldn't pass a bill concerning reparations. We couldn't provide opportunities for young people. Why? Because they didn't see it and they didn't believe it would ever happen. So I want to thank you for that. We will continue to fight the battle for affirmative action, for equal opportunity and access, even whether it's called affirmative action or not. We all know what it is, and we all know how hard we have to work to make it happen. And as your Assembly member and soon to be on Friday, your Secretary of State, I am honored to be honored by you this evening, and I will continue to work with the Campaign for College Opportunities to make sure that every little Shirley Nash Weber in California has a chance to be successful, no matter where they are. Thank you so very much. I appreciate it, this award.
Congratulations once again to Dr. Weber. And for those of you who are following along, you've just seen our virtual step and repeat. So please feel free, if you've got some good pictures, follow along and tag us on social media. We're using the hashtag CollegeOpDeansList and the hashtag DeansList2020. I have the honor of introducing our next award, which is the Distinctions in Courageous Pandemic Response. The COVID-19 pandemic has both created and exacerbated tremendous hardships for California's students and for our higher education institutions. As faculty, staff, and students had to quickly pivot to the new reality of online distance learning, it became evident that longstanding racial and socioeconomic inequities were poised to interrupt the college dreams of countless Californians. As the hurdles on the path to continuing a college education amid a global health crisis continued to build, so did the looming reality of the economic fallout of the pandemic. The challenges of guiding and managing California's budget priorities during any fiscal year is no short order. But for this past year in particular, continued emphasis on college access and student success hung in the balance as policymakers contended with conflicting budget priorities amid an uncertain economic forecast. The honorees being awarded with the Distinctions in Courageous Pandemic Response embody California's commitments to providing access to quality higher education and to ensuring student success remain a fiscal priority amid the uncertainty surrounding the pandemic. These honorees are to be commended for their steadfast dedication to protecting student success through their state budget leadership and for sending a clear message to students through their budget priorities and negotiations that the return on investment of a college education is worthwhile, meaningful, and will be met in turn with clearly stated budget priorities to support students in achieving their college dreams. Now, I would like to turn it over to Alondra Esquivel Garcia with the California State Student Association to present this award to our first honoree.
Thank you, Josh Hagan. It's truly an honor to present remarks to Assemblymember Philip Ting on the Distinction in Courageous Pandemic Response on behalf of the Cal State Student Association. We at CSSA have strongly focused on budget advocacy in the previous years, but this year in particular, we advocated for a budget that would fund the CSU and fund basic needs initiatives in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The pandemic has negatively impacted the CSU, and it's important to continue the work with our legislators in ensuring the CSU continues to operate and serve thousands of students across California. We thank you, Assemblymember Philip Ting, for including $10 million in summer financial aid for CSU students and $15 million in emergency financial aid for undocumented students denied federal funding. This budget proposal and your leadership helped to stave off cuts proposed by the governor and persevere many critical programs and services that are priorities for California residents. I have personally advocated for the budget every year during CSSA's annual chess conference at Assemblymember Philip Ting's office at the Capitol, and every time he himself has been present in the meeting, listening to the student voice. Assemblymember Philip Ting knows the importance and value of the student voice, and we are so grateful for all his work as the chair of the Budget Committee. Thank you for ensuring our CSU system remains accessible to all California students.
Thank you, Alondra, and thank you, Josh. It's an honor to accept this amazing award from the Campaign for College Opportunity and to be here with my, I guess now it's former partner, Senator, Supervisor Holly Mitchell, who's now former Senator Holly Mitchell. So it's great to see Holly again. But it's really a testament to the system that we have created here in California. When you look at so many of us as legislative leaders, how we are all products of our own state higher education system. And that's why you can see why we fight for access, equity, equality, fairness so much, because we know how difficult it was to attain higher education. At the same time, how important it is to make sure that those doors are open for all the future generations. We are so fortunate that our forefathers had the foresight to set up really the best public higher education system in the entire country. It has been served us extraordinarily well, whether you get an education from UC, CSU, or our community colleges. But what we've seen access into those institutions get harder and harder the last few years. As our population has grown, we really haven't done a very good job expanding the number of colleges and frankly, expanding the number of slots. And so there's more pressure for our young people to get into fewer and fewer spaces up and down our state. And my saddest stories are, in April and May, when I hear about all the students who didn't get in or couldn't get into where they wanted to go, and they go out of state. Because I worry that as we send our students out of state, that they don't come back. They don't become part of our California future. I think Dr. Weber was absolutely right. These universities are all part of our California promise, the promise that we make to everybody who's in kindergarten in California public schools, that if you study hard, you work hard, you're going to get access to an affordable California higher education degree. And that is what is so important. I think our partnership in fighting for that access, fighting to maintain affordability. That's why we continue to ensure that affordability is part of our Assembly budget blueprint every single year. It's very student focused. It's not, we don't assume that if we give money to UC and CSU that the affordability will trickle down. And we are constantly fighting and advocating with those institutions to ensure that there are enough spots for in-state enrollment. It's not enough just to have enrollment, but to ensure that California high school students and California community college students have slots available to them as well. So I just want to say what an honor it is to get this award and to be your partner. But like for so many of us, this is very personal for me. I wouldn't be here without my California public education, whether starting in kindergarten all the way to my degree at UC Berkeley. Without that, there's no way that I would have accomplished anything. So again, I appreciate all your advocacy, all your hard work. And I know in tough budget times is when we do the real work. And we'll be looking forward again to another budget year. And again, another great year of partnership. So thank you so much for this award. And thank you so much for all you do to make sure that college opportunity is there for all of us.
Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Nickens, and I'm a student at Folsom Lake Community College and the Vice President of Legislative Affairs for the Student Senate for California Community Colleges, the official voice of the 2.1 million California Community College students. First, I want to say thank you on behalf of the Student Senate for California Community Colleges for the opportunity and honor to present this award to the former Senator Holly Mitchell. As we know, COVID-19 has had a nightmarish impact on our students. And I can speak particularly to the fact that before this pandemic, basic needs for community college students was an immense need. COVID-19 has only exacerbated this crisis. To us, former Senator Holly Mitchell exemplified what leadership looks like from our public officials and distinguished herself in the legislature's pandemic response. We are so incredibly thankful for her listening to the needs of students and acting on our behalf to mitigate the economic and academic impacts of the pandemic. In particular, I have no doubt that without the emergency assistance provided to students and the preservation of categorical programs like extended opportunity programs and services, disabled students programs and services, and the Student Equity and Achievement program, which serve our most neediest students, the difference has been made in countless students' lives. We know that for some students who are on the brink of dropping out, they stand at the crossroads of access and economic stability, or inaccess and inequity. Your work has truly bridged that gap and made education a reality for all, for students who are struggling. You have helped realize the promise that California community colleges will remain a gateway to education for all Californians and serve as an engine of economic recovery in times of crisis. We are confident that you will carry your leadership, your commitment, and your resolute determination to the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors. Thank you so much, and we look forward to your future work.
Andrew, thank you so much for that amazing introduction. I deeply appreciate it. And to Jesse and Michelle, and all of my former colleagues I see here, Dr. Weber, my fellow Polly Bear, Assemblymember Medina, and my partner in all things fiscal crime-oriented, Assemblymember Phil Ting, Assembly Budget Chair, good evening. It's great to be with you. Never in my wildest dreams, when I decided to leave the state Senate and run for local office, that I imagined that we would be confronting the kind of public health and economic pandemic that we all find ourselves in the middle of. And certainly when Phil and I were engaged in budget action, and when I was engaged in budget actions as chair of the Joint Legislative Budget Committee last year, never in our wildest imagination did we think a full year later we would still be working safe from home, those who can. Those of you who are students would still be trying to navigate the internet superhighway to have classes. We never imagined it, and yet here we are. And so that's why it's important that we have these partnerships to continue to problem solve and think through how we support you in your academic pursuits through this current crisis, because crisis it indeed is. Proud to represent such amazing community college institutions like West LA Community College, where my own son attends, Compton College, Trade Tech, and so many others. And was proud to be able to step in the gap and under the leadership of a very creative president at Compton College, figure out ways in which we could use existing funds to help students who are homeless, access CalFresh and access important public benefit programs to support them during these really tough times. It's creative finance. A friend of mine wrote a book a number of years ago where she coined the term sisternomics. Sisternomics means we find a way when there isn't one. Dr. Weber knows a little something about that. And so we are, and I served as Senate Budget Chair using my sisternomics acumen to bring resources to the table for students that you represent and all Californians in need. Campaign for College Opportunity is a well-oiled machine, an exemplary advocacy organization, and it's because of your work that you make our jobs as policymakers much easier. I appreciate your acknowledgement of our work, and please know that in my new post, as one of the 5 women serving in leadership on behalf of the 10 million residents of LA County, I will continue to do the work that the residents of the 2nd District elected me to do. I will continue to do the work that you all need us to do in terms of making important decisions on your behalf. When I first ran for office, my son was 8 And in explaining to him why I was choosing to run for office, what I said was, I will never cast a vote or introduce a bill that I don't give thought to the future generation, how this will impact you. That's why I ran, and that continues to be my North Star as I move now to the LA County Board of Supervisors. So thank you for this wonderful recognition. It means a great deal to me. The pieces of artwork that you have selected have profound meaning. And I look forward to hanging mine in the Hall of Administration right here in the seat of county power in LA County. Again, Michelle, Jesse, all my homies, it's great to see you. And thank you from the bottom of my heart for this award tonight. I appreciate you deeply.
Good evening. It is my pleasure to introduce the Distinction in Preserving College Dreams Award to legislator who needs no introduction. I have known Assemblymember Medina since my days as a legislative staffer. What was true then and remains true today is his belief in the power of college opportunity, which is why it came as no surprise that he stepped forward as a champion to ensure that access was not compromised for students who dream of attending a CSU or UC when he introduced AB 1930. With the bill, he recognized the importance of community engagement and student voice when weighing decisions that impact eligibility to our universities. The campaign was happy to work with him on this bill and is thankful for his leadership on this. To present our award, I would like to introduce Crystal Reynez, one of the student leaders whose voice was critical to this effort.
Hello, everybody. My name is Crystal Reynez. I'm a first-gen Filipino student from Bakersfield and the 2020-2022 CSU student trustee. And I'm so happy to be presenting Assemblymember Jose Medina with this award for distinction in preserving college dream on behalf of CSU students. In my opinion, there is no one more fitting to receive this award than a lifelong educator, a former teacher, CTA member, Riverside Community College trustee, and now the chair of the Higher Ed Committee. His work shows that he's a champion for policies that improve the lives of students across the state. I know that he has uplifted and preserved college students' dreams since his time in the classroom, but today we're going to highlight his work as a legislator on AB 1930, which would have called for more transparency and collaboration with K-12 partners when it came to A through G requirements. Before my time as trustee, I was one of hundreds of students and teachers and educators and parents who came to the Board of Trustees and advocated for independent study of the quantitative reasoning requirement. It almost felt as if hundreds of us and all these organizations, including the Campaign for College Opportunity, were almost shouting into a void and no one was listening. But Assemblymember Medina was. And although he wasn't physically at the room for public comment, his ears and his heart sure was. We felt heard after this introduction of AB 1930, and it showed us that someone was also concerned about the Black and Brown students who may be disproportionately affected by the new barriers and hoops that this additional A through G requirement would pose. With this bill, the CSU took pause and decided to re-examine this quantitative reasoning requirement, which is a victory for CSU students everywhere. And so, it is with my honor to be presenting this award to a man who believes in data-based decision-making, who uplifts the students of California, and who aims to preserve college dreams from San Diego to the Bay. Thank you, Assemblymember Medina, and we all hope to support you in your continued work for fighting for accessibility and equity for CSU students.
Thank you, Crystal, for those remarks. Sarah, thank you for your introduction, and good afternoon to everyone. Before I go on at all, I just want to say what an honor it is to be here with such distinguished recipients of your award. Some of the people who I value and hold in the highest esteem, and it has been my pleasure to know and work with for the 8 years that I've been here in the state legislature. So to now Secretary of State, my good friend, congratulations to Supervisor Holly Mitchell, and to my colleague, Assemblymember Phil Ting. It's just an honor to be here with all of you. I want to thank the Campaign for College Opportunity for this recognition and for the work you do for students across the state of California. Just as the campaign, I am also a firm believer that students across California, regardless of background, should have the opportunity to go to college and to succeed. And that is why last year I introduced AB 1930. When the CSU system was considering adding a one-year quantitative reasoning coursework through the A through G subject admissions requirements, I knew that I had to work with my legislative colleagues to address the matter. Requiring an additional year of quantitative reasoning as an admissions requirement could only exacerbate the very same student achievement gap that the state had been working so hard to overcome. Students in low-income school districts already lacked the access to many courses that were given in affluent schools. Adding this requirement without proper assessments and coordination with local agencies, again, would exacerbate the existing inequalities across California. That is why the bill required collaboration with educational entities that would be impacted by the policy changes. Would also require an independent third-party study on the potential impacts to students, and would also develop an implementation committee to oversee a multi-year plan for policy implementation. And while my bill did not make it through the entire process, I was relieved to see that the CSU trustees did not move to advance with a vote. As we move forward, it's important that we provide support for our students and ensure that the opportunity to attend college is available to all. I thank you, the Campaign for College Opportunity, for your continued work and commitment to education and to California's future. I look forward to continuing to work together in the year ahead. The art piece is behind me. I'm very grateful to receive it, and I will be hanging it up in either my district or a Sacramento office. So thank you very much for this honor.
Good evening. It's my distinct pleasure this evening to help present our award for distinction in student-centered policy design. Behind every major policy win is a staffer who supports and guides their boss through what can be a long and difficult process. Last year, our CSU Board of Trustees and UC Regents had big decisions before them that impacted the future of thousands of California students and their ability to access those institutions. They tackled everything from changing eligibility requirements, the negative effects of Proposition 209, to eliminating the use of the SAT and ACT in admissions. Our California Lieutenant Governor, as a member of those boards, was an outspoken champion on those issues, thanks in large part to the tremendous student-led, equity-minded champion at her back, Aleksandra Reetz, the Lieutenant Governor's policy advisor and our honoree this evening. Alexandra is a brilliant, hardworking leader in California higher education. It is so important for our state leaders to have well-informed staff who have command of the complex issues facing higher education, who have strong relationships with both internal and external stakeholders, and who make it a point to listen and engage with students at every turn. That is Alexandra. Alexandra goes beyond in all that she does, learning the minutia of how our state financial aid system works, to deep diving into the issues facing our California community college students as the Lieutenant Governor becomes our newest governing board member there, all to ensure the Lieutenant Governor makes the best decisions possible for our students. We are so grateful to have Alexandra at the side of our Lieutenant Governor, on the side of equity, and on the side of students. It's now my honor to introduce one of the most amazing student leaders in California who has worked alongside Alexandra and will present her award this evening, Alexis Ozaleski Saragosa, a former member of the California Community College Board of Governors and now a regent of the University of California. Alexis.
Thank you so much, Audrey. So hello, everyone. Yes, my name is Alexis Ozaleski Zaragoza, currently student regent designate at the University of California Board of Regents and a senior transfer student at UC Berkeley. Today, it is my honor to present this distinction in student-centered policy design to Aleksandra Reetz. Alexandra is someone I would describe as organically passionate and a champion for the student voice. When I first met Alexandra on the Cal Grant Reform Committee, one of the first things she did was introduce herself to me, and we spoke about the importance of the student voice as a necessity in our institutions as well as statewide. Since then, she has been one of our key links to the state and helps the Lieutenant Governor to maintain her work in not one, but 3 boards for our higher education bodies. We know how important the student voice is in shaping what equity looks like. In order to best accommodate to our students and knowing what works best, we must be a part of the conversation. Just recently, the UC passed new plans for basic needs, plans that would have not existed if the students on the board had not spoken up about it years ago. That is the importance of having students in shared governance and in the now virtual halls of our great capital. If there's one thing I know, it is that the student voice is not lost in the statewide conversation. In fact, it is becoming a priority. A large part of that partnership is thanks to you, Alexandra. I'm so honored to be able to gift this to you on behalf of the Campaign for College Opportunity and recognize the great work that you've done. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Alexis. I know I speak for the LG and I when I say how incredible it's been to have your perspective and your leadership on the Board of Regents. And Audrey, thank you. It's been such an honor to work with you and to get to know you over the past couple of years. And if I can just say, I'm always so in awe of your ability to distill these really complicated issues into what they really are. And by doing so, you bring together such powerful and diverse coalitions. So first of all, wow, thank you. This beautiful award, I'm so humbled to receive it. And especially alongside some of my personal heroes, the incredible Secretary Dr. Weber, Assemblymember Medina, Assemblymember Ting, and former Senator Mitchell. Congratulations to all of you, and thank you for everything that you do for students all across our state. So I did not come into this role with a background in public higher education policy. And at first, not only did I feel like I was drinking out of a fire hose every day, I was also pretty intimidated. But, you know, I followed the LG's example, and we both continued to show up, to listen, and to learn. We showed up at regents meetings, at trustees meetings. We met with every student group who wanted to come by our office. We launched a listening tour to all 33 CSU and UC campuses and read so many reports from PPIC, EdTrust West, and of course, the Campaign for College Opportunity. And by showing up and listening, it became clear that yes, this work is sometimes about very specific, very complicated higher education policy issues, but that at its core, it's about justice, and it's about equity, and it's about opportunity. It's about changing people's lives. And while I might not have come in with a background in this space, I did know that I want to do everything that I can to create a more just and equitable world. And that's really become my motivation. So as the LG and I continued to show up and listen, both the problems and the opportunities to lead became pretty clear. And as we dug into this work, I found myself constantly reaching out to Audrey and reaching out to the campaign. And they really became our closest partner on everything from quantitative reasoning to the elimination of standardized testing. And last year when the LG was added to the Board of Community College, Board of Governors, I think the first call that I made was to Audrey and the campaign, asking them to brief us on their work in this space, the issues we should be watching, and how we can work together. And so in preparing for today, I took some time to reflect on why and how we've developed such a close partnership. And I've concluded that it's actually really simple. It's because we're fundamentally here for the same reason, to create a future where all eligible and all motivated students have an opportunity to go to college and be successful there. So again, I can't tell you how humbled I am and how much this means to me. to be recognized by an organization that I admire so much. So again, thank you. Thank you for taking all of my calls and for being our partner and leader towards our shared vision for the future. I'm so grateful, and I can't wait to see what we get up to next. Thank you.
Thank you, Alexandra. We are so proud and humbled to have the opportunity to work with you at the Campaign for College Opportunity. And while you are the gold standard in staff, I want to say that there are 100 other incredible staffers who are lifting up policymakers throughout the state and make our work infinitely easier day in, day out. And we want to recognize each of you and the contributions you play in this space. I want to share the immortal words of Shirley Chisholm. You don't make progress by standing on the sidelines, whimpering and complaining. You make progress by implementing ideas. Each of our honorees tonight have been the epitome of courage and willingness to step into the ring at great personal cost at times, but because they are so committed to ensuring that students and the state have a path forward. As Holly Mitchell said and shared with her own son, her decisions will always be guided by the North Star of what's good for students. Each of our honorees have had a similar North Star. And because of their tireless commitment to ensuring that students have a path to reach their college dream, we at the Campaign for College Opportunity will continue to advance some of the most ambitious and racial equity-minded policy across the state. We know many of you who have joined us tonight on the line are our partners on this journey, and we hope that you take away this message. This is among the most challenging times that any of us have encountered in our lives. But the students that we heard from tonight, from our poet youth laureate to each of the students who presented our awards to honorees, continue to inspire and motivate us to have the courage to persevere. They are in fact our future generation of leaders. And even in the darkest of times, amidst a pandemic, a racial reckoning, a recession, they are innovating. They are filled with hope. They are committed to ensuring a California where their children and grandchildren are better off than generations before. We are so happy to be able to lift up a bright spot in a difficult time. And at the Campaign for College Opportunity, in partnership with policymakers, civil rights organizations, business leaders, philanthropy, and many of you who are in the ring at the Capitol and across the state, we are committed to ensuring that we will get through this together and emerge a stronger California, one that helps each and every one of the young Dr. Shirley Webers achieve their full potential and become that next generation of leaders that we know can promote the economic prosperity and ensure a society in which we all are able to reach our full potential. Thank you.